right now. Right before the season, everybody's pissing and moaning. We had a different coach come up and give a motivational speech in the afternoon each day. He was our running backs coach at the time by the name of Derek Foster. Coach Foster came up there, toughness and pushing through. He got real razzed up as his speech progressed. We had a video coordinator named Rocky. He finishes his speech and he goes, "Hit it, Rock!" And Set It Off by Boosie Badass played. As a young white man, it was my first time hearing that song, Set It Off. Yeah, we finna set it off. You heard me? I'm finna put you in the trash bag. Tired of all these knowing me right now, for real. You wanna talk shit? You wanna run your mouth? You want some gangster strut your mother in the house? We'll set this jaw. Yeah. And that was my first time hearing Set It Off. At Samford University, it was the third or fourth week of camp. We were about where teams are right now. Right before the season, everybody's pissing and moaning. We had a different coach come up and give a motivational speech in the afternoon each day. He was our running backs coach at the time by the name of Derek Foster. Coach Foster came up there, toughness and pushing through. He got real razzed up as his speech progressed. We had a video coordinator.
And just like that, we are back. And we've got a few things to unpack on the show today, particularly last night's Fiesta Bowl, which I attended. It was here in Phoenix, between one of my favorite programs in college football, the Ole Miss Rebels, and one of my favorite teams from this season, the Miami Hurricanes. I wish there was a matchup in the national championship because, frankly, I should have interest in tonight's Indiana-Oregon game, but I got none. We're going to do a quick episode here. I'd imagine that game's probably going to start in the next hour on the hour. And I'm going to go over and drill some no-gi jiu-jitsu. So whatever I catch of that game, I catch. You know, I'm not opposed to watching it. Just hurts my heart, man. You guys see the title of the video. It's the third straight year without an SEC program, even in the national championship. Could be the third year in a row that a Big Ten school wins the national championship in football. And I'm listening to Feinbaum. You know, you got all these Big Ten folks making it about conference. They get, you know, and I get it, man. It's fun to gloat. Shout out to everybody popping in the chat. It's fun to gloat, especially when the SEC has been the dominant conference in college football, going all the way back to Urban Meyer and the Florida Gators in 2007, 2006. Whenever that reign started, I think it was 2006. And look, I don't think that most SEC fans, look, it really varies, okay? It really varies. And I'm going to keep this episode short for you guys. I came on here late. We'll give you guys analysis of last night's game, my analysis of the Ole Miss Miami game. That's coming up. But really, the main macro point I wanted to address today on the show, on this glorious rendition of In the Jar Football Podcast. Make sure you subscribe if you're in the chat. We're the fastest growing football channel in the land, specifically covering college football, SEC football, and a little bit of NFL. That's coming from a former college football player. I didn't play. I practiced in college, but I was in a building, and I spent time in NFL buildings as well. So if you're here for the first time, welcome in. Make sure you subscribe. But listen, man, I like to tune into the Paul Feinbaum show. And I'll tell you guys why. I like to tune into the Paul Feinbaum show because much like I want this show to be, call-ins really give you a good indication of where fans are at. And I think where fans are at is important because everybody's got their own spin on it. Everybody's got their own take on it. And something I've noticed, a big macro area I've noticed following college football this year is fans and the way they operate in the capacity of team first or conference first. I've been an SEC supremacist for a long time. I've said it on the show that I support the SEC. I grew up in Lexington, Kentucky. You know, that's barely SEC, barely has ever been SEC, University of Kentucky. The only thing for the University of Kentucky that was a saving grace was their basketball program. And it looks like they don't even have that anymore. So I was listening to Paul Feinbaum's show, and you get a couple of different types of folks calling in. You got Big Ten folks that'll call into these shows. You got obviously your Bama fans. You got your South Carolina fans. You got people from Indiana, people from Ohio calling into these shows. And the main thing I notice about Big Ten fans of Big Ten schools, is it seems like it's more about conference to them. It seems like for Big Ten fans, it's more about reveling in the downfall of the SEC than it is actually enjoying the success of their programs. The Big Ten's going to have a team in the national title game for the third year in a row. Do I really consider Oregon Big Ten? Not really. But that's what we're working with. And it's funny because I hear SEC fans calling into these shows. I hear Bama fans calling in. I hear South Carolina fans calling in. I hear LSU fans calling in all the time. And most of the SEC fans that I know that are passionate about their school are thinking and saying, well, to hell with Ole Miss, to hell with LSU, to hell with Tennessee. It ain't about conference. I don't give a rat's ass about a damn conference. But you got your people like me. And listen, guys, I'll be the first to say it. The SEC is not what we once knew it to be. It might be a Captain Obvious statement to make. The reign of the SEC is over. It's completely over. NIL, you know what that stands for, guys? Now it's legal. And I think we all know at this point that big-time SEC athletic programs, especially in football, we're paying kids. And you come in through the back door. You heard Ed Orgeron talk about it. I think it was on Bussin' with the Boys. Ed Orgeron talking about it. He was saying with recruiting how you used to walk in through the back door, but now you can come in through the front. And so part of me wants to think that these schools up north have caught up to the SEC, maybe eclipsed the SEC at this point, is because now these northern schools can pay too. I'm not saying that Big Ten schools are completely clean of scandal. Right? Go to Penn. Google Jerry Sandusky at Penn State or Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. Let alone the Sharon Moore saga that just went down in Michigan. And hop onto the Big Ten network and see how much they're covering any of that shit. We try to just bring the facts to you on this show. I've been an SEC homer on this show before. I was wrong this season about the SEC. I made takes this season that the SEC was still the best conference. Maybe even 3-4 weeks ago, I made takes saying that the SEC was still the SEC. It ain't. And I saw a statistic that I don't know if it was this season or maybe this postseason, I don't know if, there were 14 matchups between, maybe there were. I'm going to pull it up. You guys give me a minute here. This is what I'm saying. You guys got to subscribe to the channel so that I can hire a producer to pull this up for us. But we're getting here. Let's see it. Okay. This is what I wanted to read to y'all today. It's going to be a short episode. I'm going to head over to jiu-jitsu, get into the weekend. But I just want to unpack the game last night a little bit. And we will give you our analysis of what went down between Ole Miss and Miami last night. Okay. In December, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey said that the SEC deserved 7 bids to the college football playoff. They got 5. Okay, he thought Vanderbilt and Texas should have also been in the playoff. I feel like Texas should have got in. After seeing the way Vandy played against Iowa, I can't say that Vandy should have got in. Despite getting 5 bids out of 12, the SEC didn't reach the national championship game for a 3rd season in a row. In bowl season as a whole, so it was postseason, the SEC finished 4-10, the worst of any conference. 2 of those wins and 2 of those losses were to other SEC teams. So in non-conference postseason play, the SEC went 2-8. With Miami's victory over Ole Miss last night, the SEC finished 6-8 against the ACC. The second time in the last 3 years they've had a losing record to the ACC. It seems the era of blind. Okay, I'm not saying that. So 4-10 in the postseason. You take away 4 of those games, the record's 2-8 for the SEC. You got, and I think really when you think about it, maybe Ole Miss Tulane was one of those 2 wins out of 8. I'm trying to think of the other one because Georgia got bumped out in the first round. Alabama's only win in the postseason was against Oklahoma, another SEC team. Who else got in? It was Georgia. It was Ole Miss. It was Bama. It was A&M. And then who was the 5th? Let me think. The 5th SEC team. Oh, it was Ole Miss Tulane in the first round. Bama, Oklahoma in the first round. JMU, Oregon in the first round. Indiana got a bye. Ohio State got a bye. Oregon got a bye, I believe. No, they didn't. They played JMU. I just said that. Georgia got a bye. I'm blanking on the 5th SEC team that got in. That's going to bug me. But yeah, it's very possible that that Ole Miss over Tulane was one of those victories for the SEC this year. Like I said earlier, SEC in postseason games this year in college football, 4-10 in total. 2-2 against other SEC opponents, 2-8 against non-conference opponents, and I have a bad feeling that Ole Miss beating Tulane was one of those 2 postseason wins for the SEC. Not a good look. Trying to think of the other games, but I can't right now. I'm blanking. As it pertains to last night's game against Ole Miss Miami, I said it before the game. We covered it ad nauseum this week on the show, and I've been saying it. Anybody that bought a ticket to that Ole Miss Miami Hurricanes Fiesta Bowl was going to get their money's worth. And boy, was I right about that. What a game. It was 2 of my favorite teams from this season of college football. The way they play, the grit they play with, physicality, it's all there. I noticed from the jump for Miami that Fletcher was going to be a big problem, their running back, number 4. He's, I think, the most important piece on that entire team. We've spoken at length about Reuben Bain, Keelan Marion, the receiver, had a really big role for Miami last night, made some big catches in some big moments. And you looked up at the scoreboard. Miami absolutely dominated time of possession. At one point, they were doubling the offensive plays run for Ole Miss. They had more passing yards at different points of the game. That was a bit more back and forth. They had, by far, they were almost doubling Ole Miss in rushing yards. For Ole Miss, the run game just wasn't there. You had the big 73-yard run by Kawan Lacey. On that run, by the way, yanks his hamstring. I was wondering why he pulled up. If you run that play back, if you pull that play up on video, you can see what I'm talking about. I was wondering why Kawan Lacey pulled up on that 73-yard run. It was because he yanked his hamstring or something. I'm white, so I don't know what that feels like. But other than that big play, run game was absolutely non-existent for Ole Miss. And early in the game, it seemed like Miami was getting a rusher free, untouched on almost every play. The first couple series that Trinidad Chambliss had to drop back and throw it. You didn't have time. But everything changed when Kawan Lacey busted that big run. Ole Miss takes the lead. And there were just certain points throughout the game. Listen, I was wearing powder blue. I was cheering for Ole Miss. I bet on them. There were certain points throughout the game, this Fiesta Bowl, where you really felt like Miami was physically dominating for the most part. But there was just something about the juice Ole Miss had, undeniable juice this team had. And I thought that juice might have been able to carry them through this game. You know, you had another big game from Ole Miss kicker, Carnero or something. But he missed one. He dinked one off of the left upright that fell out of the field goal. And it's kind of hard with, especially the day after a game like this. There's so much going on. It's so fast-paced. I can't really remember series by series exactly what happened, but what I do remember, what I do think was the case in this Fiesta Bowl was that Fletcher made the difference for Miami. Carson Beck, he did what he needed to do. He's getting a lot of praise. I think he deserves it. But I didn't see any type of exemplary performance from Carson Beck on the macro. He made big plays when he had to. That dig route across the middle on third down in Ole Miss territory on that last drive was absolutely huge. The touchdown run for Carson Beck with 18 seconds left was obviously the nail in the coffin. Now Ole Miss ended up getting a chance, and a lot of people are wondering whether that last play, that Hail Mary, was a pass interference or not. Even if the refs had called that, even if the refs had thrown the flag on that last Hail Mary play for Ole Miss in the Fiesta Bowl, it's in college, it's 15 yards from the spot of the ball. Ball was on the 35. So it really would have given Ole Miss one more chance from the 19-yard line. I'm not saying that would have been negligible. But I am saying that if you had to have Vegas bookmakers draw up the odds for Ole Miss scoring from the 19 with zeros on the clock, I feel like you'd get paid pretty good if you bet that and Ole Miss ended up scoring. You know what I mean? The odds of that are still long. I get why fans and other people would want for that to be called, for Ole Miss to get one more chance from 19. I sure as hell would have wanted that. But I do think if you think about the probabilities of it, like, we're just trying to get to the truth here. Even if Ole Miss has gotten one more play from the 19 with zeros on the clock, I think the chances of them happening to convert on that play were pretty long. But I think it was kind of a mind F for me watching that game, because I thought Georgia was by far the creme de la creme of physicality in college football this year. And we watched Ole Miss bully them last week in the Sugar Bowl. And so naturally I thought, okay, you bullied the bully. You must be the bully now. Not the case. Miami seems to be the bully at this point. And I'd imagine they're going to face Indiana in the national championship. I'd love to see Oregon win tonight, by the way. Indiana fans just seem to be the folks that are more worried about the SEC than they are the fact that their team is one of the best teams they've ever had in program history. They still seem concerned with the SEC. In fact, when I was at the Rose Bowl last week, that's all these Indiana fans could talk about. Say, it's the SEC. It's the SEC. Kind of trying to troll. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, this program's never been to a Rose Bowl before. Think about how big of a deal it is for a program in the Big Ten that hasn't ever been there before to go to the Rose Bowl. And in the fourth quarter of a Rose Bowl that Indiana was dominating, their fans in my section were trying to troll the SEC. It's convenient because they're beating up on an SEC team. I get it, but I feel like even if it wasn't an SEC team, maybe they would have found a way to make it about the SEC. It's just kind of weird. You know what I mean? But like I said, we got to get used to this new era of college football. The SEC, it's been the greatest conference for a long time, and it's now very clear that they've been paying players, and now everybody can pay players, and it's kind of even the playing field. But I mean, these SEC athletic directors, man, they got to get it figured out. Like, 3 years without a national championship berth. What are we doing? Okay? Listen, as much as I've gotten behind Pete Golden, dropped the ball last night. He's a defensive guy, and Ole Miss's biggest issue last night was on defense. They just couldn't find a way to get number 4 from Miami down to the ground. They just couldn't. Ole Miss's defensive front was doing a great job of getting push up front last night. But when they made contact with the back, Fletcher would keep them churning for 3 or 4 more each time. So even though the D-line for Ole Miss was meeting him at the line of scrimmage, Fletcher was finding a way to churn out 4 to 6 every single play. And if you're allowing 4 to 6 every play on the ground, especially after halftime where you've had space to make adjustments, Fletcher was still churning them out 4 to 6. It's going to be tough, dare I say impossible, to find a way to win. And like I said, Ole Miss, undeniable juice with this team this year. Really, it's really sad that their season had to end last night. I'm biased. Undeniable juice. The fact that Ole Miss even stayed in this game, watching it unfold in person last night, was shocking to me. Undeniable juice. And this morning, Ole Miss fans get news. We all get news. Might be kicking Ole Miss fans while they're down that the NCAA once again has denied Trinidad Chambliss a 6 year of eligibility, going back to a medical red shirt that he's trying to get from 2022 when he was at D2 Ferris State. The NCAA, they want more documentation about this tonsillitis, this respiratory issue that potentially former Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss was apparently going through. And according to what I've heard, the NCAA with Trinidad Chambliss has just not gotten enough satisfactory documentation to prove that a medical condition was what was keeping Trinidad Chambliss from playing football in 2022. It still stands the same in college football. You get your redshirt year, and then you get something different if you are sidelined for a season called a medical redshirt. And so that's what Trinidad Chambliss is seeking out, is a medical redshirt year, because he's already used a regular redshirt year. That's 5 years in school. And so if you get a medical redshirt, that puts you to 6 years playing college football. But I mean, look, I like the way Miami plays. I hope they win it all. It really comes down to physicality, guys. The more physical team won the game, and that's typically how it goes in football. And that's what I love about the sport. It's being physical is a choice in football. It's a complete choice. And Miami was a more physical team last night. We got NFL wildcard weekend coming up. I'm gonna make my picks and get you guys out of here. I don't got a ton of juice today. I'm talking personally. I just don't feel like I'm coming with the sauce right now. So we'll get you some predictions. We'll get you on out of here. Cruise you on into probably the best weekend of football we're going to see all year. So you guys strap in, enjoy it. Okay, we're starting off with the with Indiana versus Oregon tonight. Typically, I would say, and I've talked about this on the show before, it's hard to beat a team twice in a season. Typically, I would pick Oregon against Indiana because Indiana beat them in the regular season. Oregon's got the film. They know what adjustments they need to make, and that very well might be the case. But I watched Indiana last week. They grind you down. They don't make mistakes where they beat themselves. They're the best coached team by far in college football. And the way they play, they just wear you down. Like, I really don't think Mendoza is anything that's that special. I think the system he's in allows him to shine. He is a system quarterback. And I'm not being a hater when I say that. He thrives in that system. He's got a great back. He's got receivers that make plays for him when need be. But everything starts with that back for Indiana. I forget his name. It starts with a H or something. Can't remember. But it all starts with that back for Indiana. It all starts with the run game. They grind you down. They got a big physical offensive line that bullied Alabama last week in the Rose Bowl. And I think Indiana's just too well coached. I think Indiana is one of the only programs that I can think of that the hard to beat a team twice narrative doesn't apply. I don't think it applies to Indiana. I'm taking Indiana against Oregon tonight, even though I'll be rooting for Oregon. So we'll come back to that. That's really my take. I don't plan on watching that much of it. I think the game's coming on here soon. I'm going to head down to jiu-jitsu. I'm already late to jiu-jitsu. But, we got to make predictions for the wild card weekend as well. Puma in the chat. Shout out Puma. Laura Taralba. Shout out Hilly Billy. Pablo Martinez. Canada Rob says I've been busting you long enough. Here's a thumbs up. Keep going, man. Thanks, man. I don't know what busting me means, but hope it's not sexual. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you. I appreciate that, Canada Bob. Wild card weekend. I think the most obvious game of the weekend is the first one. That's LA Rams traveling to Carolina. I think the LA Rams are just better. I'd love to see Carolina win, but that's really the only obvious game to me. The can't beat the same team twice narrative does apply here because the Carolina Panthers just beat the LA Rams at the same place not 3 weeks ago or something. And so I think the LA Rams are a great team. I highly doubt they're going to be a team that has a first-round exit to a team that beat them, that's inferior to them not too long ago. So I got the Rams. And then the next game, the second game, the last game for Saturday tomorrow is Chicago hosting Green Bay. I believe Chicago is still a home underdog to Green Bay, even though Green Bay hasn't won a game in the last month. Give me Green Bay to win that one. Impressive season for Ben Johnson and the Bears. They'll definitely have momentum regardless of what happens in this game and what happens going forward. But I don't know, just gut tells me Green Bay. And then you got 3 games on Sunday. I think the first one is Buffalo at Jacksonville. I think that's a really, really scary game for the Bills. I think this is a game that the Bills would rather not be playing first thing in the playoffs, wild card weekend. I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jags. I think the Bills are too flawed. I think that Jacksonville has got too much juice there, I think, at the 3 seed. And man, it was tough for me to buy into Jacksonville. I remember saying on this show that I struggled to take Jacksonville seriously at the beginning of the year. Liam Cohen, you're talking about fast turnarounds, and I didn't even get to the fact that the Bengals de facto GM, Duke Tobin, spoke to the media for an hour today. I listened to the first 10 minutes of it. I'm going to listen to the rest of it. People's responses are pretty melancholy, though. The whole fan base of Cincinnati is pretty melancholy. And the thing that made me think of that was all the one-year turnarounds that we've seen in the NFL this year. The Bears, the Jags, the Patriots, and the Bengals are still sitting around preaching patience and Super Bowl appearances that happened half a decade ago. Just unserious. It's absolutely unserious. What are the other 2 games on Saturday? I know you got the Steelers hosting the Texans on Monday night. That'll round out the weekend. That's going to be I think that's really scary for the Texans. The Texans have won 9 straight. The fact that the Steelers are hosting a playoff game is insane to me. I understand why. They're a division winner in probably the worst division in football. The NFC South and AFC North are neck and neck for the worst division in football right now. But I will say about the NFC South that they're the only division that's had every single team, I think, make the Super Bowl. I think in all of football. And I think recently too. So that's kind of interesting. Who else do we have? Why am I blanking here? NFL wildcard weekend. And I'm going to look at him and be like, oh, yeah. San Francisco going to Philly for the middle game on Sunday. Man. Give me Philadelphia there. I think that's kind of a no-brainer. San Francisco's trended downward the last week or two. They got trouble with injuries, but remarkably enough, they've managed to get 12 wins this year. And I think that's a testament to Kyle Shanahan. I think that's absolutely a testament for a potential Coach of the Year award for Kyle Shanahan. But you got too many first-year turnaround stories in the NFL, so Kyle Shanahan's probably not going to get credit for the job he's done getting this 49ers club to 12 wins with all of the injuries they had, all of the leaders they have come out or miss a lot of games this year. They had Mac Jones play for 4 or 5 games for them this year. That's a substantial sum, but I got Philly. Philly finds a way to win in a lot of games, and I think they'll find a way to do that against a downward trending San Francisco team. And then to round out Sunday night, you got the Chargers heading to Foxborough. That's a no-brainer to me as well. I mean, listen, guys, the cool thing about the NFL this year is that there's no dominant team. Even when you go to the top of the AFC with Denver, you go to the top of the NFC with Seattle, those teams are very beatable. You're not seeing any '07 Brady, Randy Moss-led New England Patriots in this rendition of the NFL. It's just not the way it is anymore. Not the way it is right now, at least. And so literally no outcome other than the Rams Panthers game to start the weekend would surprise me. It would really shock me if Carolina found a way to beat the LA Rams. I would love to see that. I don't think it's going to happen. But literally no outcome in any other game would surprise me this weekend with the NFL wild card. And I love that. I don't remember an NFL season like this in 20 plus years following the sport. But I think it would kind of shock me to go back on what I said. I think it would kind of shock me to see the Chargers go on the road in Foxborough and beat this Patriots team. I think it would. But again, you've seen this Patriots team have a lot of flaws themselves. So I'm going to go back on what I said again. I don't think it would surprise me that much if the Chargers found a way to beat New England. But I'm picking New England. So my picks for this wild card weekend, you got the Rams over the Panthers. You got the Packers over the Bears. That's Saturday. You got the Jags over the Bills. That's my pick for that game. You got the you got the Eagles over the Niners. That's my pick for the middle game on Sunday. And then for the last game on Sunday, I got the Patriots over the Chargers. And then the Monday night game to round out probably the best weekend of football we're going to see all year. Houston goes on the road to Pittsburgh. The winner of the AFC North by a field goal, a missed field goal. Give me the Texans for their 10th straight win. That's a game that it could go either way too, guys. But I am late to jiu-jitsu. In fact, class is supposed to start in 8 minutes. And I'm 20 minutes from the gym. Obviously not going to train in this. So I do need to go. All right. But the Fiesta Bowl was a great game. I'm sad for the SEC. The reign of the SEC is over. We got NFL wildcard weekend. I am not, as an SEC supremacist, very interested in this Peach Bowl that's going down tonight between Indiana and Oregon. But I'm sure we'll unpack it to some extent. When we come back Monday, we'll unpack NFL wildcard weekend. Should be a fun one, guys, when we get back here on Monday. But until then, make sure you subscribe. Find us on audio platforms. Fastest growing football channel in the land. We are the People's Football Channel. We're the People's Resource. We're bringing truth to you each and every day. Monday through Friday, we go live 6 Eastern on this very show. YouTube, Kick. You can find audio episodes on any audio platform that you can think of that's updated daily. So we're going to go ahead and see ourselves out. But appreciate everybody that popped in today, man. Didn't feel like I had much juice, but we ended up going for about 40 damn minutes. Time flies when you're having fun, even when you don't have much juice to have fun with. And we'll see you guys Monday, all right? Subscribe. That's the most important thing. We hope you enjoy, but the most important thing, hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Damn it. Do it.